Let's give William another round of applause. I think, like, William, it was really cool when you were up here. You can tell, like, you were really thoughtful in what you were saying, and you took your time. So I feel like there's a lot of learning going on with you, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more when you transition to outpatient and sober living. So I'm excited to see that. So thank you. All right, 10-minute break. Let's go.
Go. Break. Those the boots?
All right, let's start the second half of the meeting with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, let's start the second half of the meeting with our main speaker. David, come on up.
My name's David and I'm an addict. Yeah. I'm a fucking addict. Some people think I can string some sentences together, and sometimes I think they're really wrong, and sometimes I just get excited about being a member of NA, and sometimes it kind of comes together, and I just try not to be full of shit, and I try to share from the heart, and I try to share my feelings about Narcotics Anonymous. Sometimes it might even sound like I'm trying to sales pitch Narcotics Anonymous, right? Like, because I'm excited to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm real grateful. One of my new sayings is, I almost died to get here. Same here, man. We almost died to get here, most of us, right? And like, and right now, I'm being asked to fulfill a commitment. And a commitment is the 12th step of Narcotics Anonymous. And it's having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to the addict that still suffers. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm the addict that don't know he's suffering. Right? I look like I'm the addict that could be sitting in a fucking treatment center not really knowing that I'm in an ICU. Like not really coming to terms with the fact that I got a disease that tells me I don't have a disease. I got a disease that tells me I got this. I got this, right? I got a disease that tells me I can go out on my own and do this thing. I got a disease that tells me I don't need other people that understand this disease. I got a disease that thinks I don't need to compromise, that I don't need to have spiritual principles and practice. I got a disease that thinks I can compromise spiritual principles. I got a disease that fucks with me mentally because I get an idea and I obsess, and then I'm impulsive and compulsive, and then I physically act. It affects me physically, and it all stems from the spiritual part of my disease, which is my total and complete self-centeredness, which is I make every fucking thing that happens in my presence about me.
That's right.
And I've got good intentions, but I'm busy trying to manipulate and control some shit. I like this place, man. And if I was in any other medium, Narcotics Anonymous, I would never, ever mention a treatment facility, but I'm in a treatment facility, and I'm going to say this is a great fucking place. And one of the reasons it's so great is y'all got a bunch of NA members in this motherfucker working for you.
That's right.
Right? And you got some 12-step members that are practicing principles working for us. I'm going to say us, because y'all are my people, whether you know it or not. Whether you fucking know it or not, right? This is a good fucking place, right? And it's funny. I just met somebody close to me, and it's the first person I've ever met in all the years that I've known about this place that thinks this isn't a great place right now. And that's why when I go to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, I don't share about the treatment facility I was in, because there might be that one suffering addict that has a resentment towards that treatment facility that might go, fuck that Narcotics Anonymous shit, and they go, and then they say, fuck it. Anybody here ever raise your hand if you ever said fuck it? Fuck it. And what I'm really doing is I'm saying fuck me. Because what I'm about to go do is some shit that's gonna hurt me. Imagine that shit, right? So, like, that's why we have a sixth tradition, and when we're in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, we say, I was in this treatment center, or I'm in this treatment center, right? So, I'm going to excuse myself from that because I'm at Fred Brown's. Anyways, man, look, I want to thank William for sharing. It's hard to string together a life story in 10 fucking minutes, right? Like it's not fucking easy, right? And like I remember going to pads where like there was going to be gunplay and being strapped and ready. I remember going to 3 yards where I had enemies and being ready and being fearful. But nothing was more fearful than coming up here. Right? Nothing was more fearful than like practicing some principles for the first time in my life. Right? Nothing was more fearful than showing up for myself or becoming vulnerable. Like so many things, man, that I've experienced as a result of getting clean. It's incredible. It's fucking incredible, man. And it's crazy how hard. Look, man, I got a call from a friend of mine, and this friend of mine, he had 8 years clean, and he's a very active member of Narcotics Anonymous, and he can get up here and he could share like motherfucking Shakespeare, and like he could give you a message of hope, and he could say some shit, he'd make you laugh, and you'd be like, oh, me too, man, I know I'm in the right place, and I'm gonna keep coming back to Narcotics Anonymous. And he was a step working, book toting, he had his little book bag everywhere, and he'd bring his little, I got a couple little things in here I won't mention, right, but he had to have his little book bag, and he'd take it everywhere, and he would consider, it was like being strapped. I'm strapped with some principles. I'm strapped with a God-given fellowship. I'm strapped, right? And like the shame and the guilt of like leaving some children behind will take this dude out, right? And my, like, this is the guy that I remember going into a treatment center, not unlike this treatment center, and I remember I was political. I was on some how high is the grass type of shit. You know what I'm talking about? Like I was fucked up. I had a lot of indoctrination. I believed in some stuff, and then I remember being afraid. I remember being afraid to leave treatment. I remember being afraid to leave this safe place. I had never felt safe before. And I remember they said, well, your time's almost up. You're about to graduate. And I remember being so afraid, man. And I remember I remember getting in touch and somebody getting in touch with the fact that it was healthy fear, because I'm afraid of what I'll do to me, because I still live with the same motherfucker that gets me high. I still live with the same person that makes the decisions that got me to all them prison yards and all them places because I couldn't manage my life, so somebody was going to manage it for me. And I remember going to what we call them sober livings, right? So I remember going to sober living, and I remember going to both fellowships, and I was clean and sober, right? And that's fine. You know, we call them andas and sober. We make fun, because we think we're special, right? But I always say, andas do recover. But anyways, I was clean. I remember I was playing around with, I was over here in AA, and I was doing my little thing in AA, and I'd connected with some really good people, and I got a sponsor, and I did some stuff, and then I started going over here to NA and visiting over there, and then I'd say clean and sober, and they'd be like, clean, and I'd say clean and sober, and they'd say sober, and like I couldn't seem to win, and right, and so I felt like I needed to pick one, and they said commitment is a spiritual principle, fidelity is a spiritual principle. They said that type of stuff. I bought into that. I'm not telling anybody got to buy into that, right? But I bought into that, and then I remember this guy, and he had very, very dark skin, and he had dreads, and he would come up in this beat up little, I think it was a little blue neon. He would pull up in the alley behind the sober living, and he would get out of the neon, and I would walk up to the neon, and he would hug me, and he would embrace me, and he would hold me and hold me and hold me. And then all that politic and shit would come in my head, and I'd be like, somebody's gonna see me, right? Like I was fucked up, right? And this guy would be like, and he would drop me off, and he would say, I love you, bro, right? He would drop me off after the meeting, and he would be like, I love you, bro, right? And I remember connecting with the guy who would be my sponsor from him, and I remember making some moves on purpose because I knew that I had I had bought into some stuff. I bought into some hate. I had bought into some political bullshit, and I had seen the hypocrisy. I had been on those yards, and I had seen the things this guy said, and then the things they would do, and I remember being like, I want to change, dude. Like, I don't want to have that language anymore. I don't want to have that mentality anymore. I don't want to be a convict anymore. No, we're a convict, right? I know we got some in here, right? And what am I going to be, a convict in a spiritual fellowship? Level 4 killer practicing harmony and humility and love and acceptance, right? But like, that's where I found the freedom, man. That's where I found the freedom, right? And I don't know, I wanted to touch on that, man, because I seen that guy the other day. I saw that guy the other day, and he had he smoked the fuck out. And he's about 50, 60 pounds light, and he's got nowhere to live and nowhere to stay, and he's got a bicycle with a big, one of those plastic storage containers full of shit, and a fucking, like one of those rolling luggage bags on top of that, and the shit's falling all over the street in Pacific Coast Highway, and I'm just coming to meet him at Jack in the Box to feed him. And I'm going, fuck, dude. Like that's what the disease of addiction does. That's what it causes me to go to places I don't want to go. It's such hard work to stay loaded. The amount of compromise, the amount of principles that I have to compromise. I say I'm a good guy, but I don't know how to be a good guy. I'm a walking contra-fucking diction. Right? And then I end up in these fucking places, and then I go into victim mode. How did I get here? Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. And like, right? And I end up in these fucking places, man. I end up in these prison yards, and I end up, I said something about domestic violence, man. Look, man, like I had to sort through the contradiction and the confusion through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Like I had to learn about who I had been, who I am, what I want to become, what would my life be like without these defects of character, right? I want to know about that. I want to know about the person I am, the body I live in, and who I want to be. Like, and I can come to a treatment center, man, and it says in the reading, it says, our disease was arrested at some point and recovery was then possible. This motherfucker right here is arresting my disease. What the fuck am I going to do with it? right? I got every opportunity, right? And they're spoon feeding you right now. Here's these 12-step fellowships. What you gonna do, right? You're gonna walk out of here and pretend I got a disease that's not progressive and fatal and ain't gonna be with me for the rest of my motherfucking life? Sorry, I'm getting a little excited right now. But look, like fucking real shit, man. Excuse my language. Nah, don't worry. But I get in touch. I got to get in touch with some of that, man. Like, who do I really want to be? I talk about, I remember being out there in the street and on them prison yards talking about respect. Motherfucker, I want people to respect me, but I gotta fucking assault myself with a fucking substance. I'm gonna abandon my fucking kids, and back to where I started on this fucking rant. As I remember being loaded, man, and I remember meeting this little girl. And she was way too young for me, and she was beautiful. And she said, "You be selling that shit?" And I'm like, "No, but I got it all the time." Hey, man, a week later, I was selling that shit, right? And man, I remember she's pregnant in the kitchen, 7 months pregnant, and she's huge. And by then, I was in love, but she accused me so many times of infidelity that I finally ran across the right girl, and I said, "Fuck it." And next thing you know, all her accusations were true. And then she would accuse me, and then she put hands on me, and then I whoop her ass in the kitchen. 7 months pregnant, blood all over the kitchen. Talk about the shame and the guilt that I felt, right? And what do you do when you do that? I got to get high. I got to get high to escape the way I feel like I've always done, because drugs were never the problem. They were the motherfucking solution. I didn't come in here drugs created more problems. Running to the drugs created the problems. Running from life created the problems. Through our inability to accept personal responsibility, we're actually creating our own problems, right? And look, man, I suffer from an impulsiveness. I suffer from obsession, romance, finance. I turned 17 years clean 3 days ago, man. And look, and romance and finance can still fuck me up. Have me twisted. Like I'm talking about, we got a symbol in Narcotics Anonymous, and the base is goodwill, right? And it's got a little diamond, a square shape in the middle. It's in a circle. And then around the diamond on the four corners, it says self-service God society, right? So on the God part, what am I doing for my spiritual maintenance, right? And I've got some stuff that I do, man. I do everything from breath work to fucking, meditations, and I do all this shit in the morning before my feet hit the floor every fucking morning. I got a record of it, 500 and something days straight, right? I do all that shit because I get in touch with this spiritual thing, right? And I want I want spirit to spirit / God / source / Star Wars the Force to express itself through me. Call it what you want. And I want to give it license to operate through me, man, seeking only fucking God's will and the power to carry that out, right? This says self-service God society. So I got God, and then I got society. This is a society.
Yes.
What am I doing in the society? Am I trying to let that God work through me in this society? Am I trying to serve the fucking people I'm around? Let me tell you, I'm a selfish motherfucker, man, and I'm preaching a good one right now. It ain't always that good, but I'm trying. And listen, talk about a beautiful fucking distinct difference, profound difference from being active in the disease of addiction out there loaded. I didn't give a fuck about being a good guy, right? Right. So God, self, service. We got service. I'm out of order. Self. What am I doing for myself? What am I doing for myself? I come to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm addressing God and myself. My God has this expression through me and you, and you, and you, and you, and motherfucking you, Nancy, right? My God has this, and my fucking man Ben over there. God damn, right? So look, and my God says goddamn right there with me. My God is not that sensitive. So, look, man, so when I come to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, I'm addressing the God part. I'm addressing the self part. When I go to the gym and train, I'm addressing the self part. When I talk to the people that restore my sanity, because I got like 5 or 6 that I try to talk to on a daily basis, right? Because sometimes I'm not sane, right? Sometimes I'm not quite right. And I got people that spot that shit before I do. I'm late to the party all the time, homies. They're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, nothing. And then I'll hang up the phone. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm fucking tripping. Right? I look like, so what am I doing for myself, man, right? Right? So, in service, right? The God Self-Service Society. Right? And look, it's very elusive. It's very hard to have balance in my life and balance all that stuff in the symbol. But if I find myself really out of tune, then I can think about the Narcotics Anonymous symbol, which the base is goodwill. Am I approaching these things from a place of giving or from what I can get out of you? Am I being an opportunist? Because the disease of addiction is a motherfucking opportunist. It's insidious. It's fucking patient, and it's sitting in our seats right now. Right? And so, service, man, like, right now, man, I can't, on the outside looking in, I feel like Fred Brown's is saving some motherfucking lives. So how am I serving Fred Brown's and the people in it? How am I serving the people I live with? Right? If I go to a 12-step fellowship, am I just going to fucking hear some shit and get the fuck out? Look, that's okay, dude. I fucking did it for years. And like those of us that have a commitment in Narcotics Anonymous, look, man, we want you to come. Look, we're going to greet you with this is a piece of literature I'm quoting, I didn't make this shit up. We're going to greet you with the recognition reserved for survivors of the same near-fatal catastrophe. Right? The only requirement for membership in Narcotics Anonymous is a desire to stop using. You don't need to have insurance. You don't need to have a gender preference that we agree with as individuals. You don't, look, man, it don't fucking matter. You don't need to smell good. Matter of fact, if you see, and she's an active member, so you better be ready to smell some. No, I'm just kidding. But look, I don't know. This is really, really good stuff, man. And so I don't know what got me on the symbol, man. But I don't know, this whole thing called Narcotics Anonymous, it has taught me so much, and it's brought about so much self-awareness, and you know, talk about spiritual awakenings, and most of my spiritual awakenings come in the form of rude awakenings first, because it's like, ooh, God, I'm about that. Ooh, God, I did that. Like, right? Ooh, I was that manipulative. Ooh, I was kind of a piece of shit. You know what I mean, right? Like, or ooh, I do that, I do this, right? And but the beautiful thing is, what happens after that is I get to a place of self-acceptance. And when I get to a place of really deep self-acceptance, then I can allow myself to feel motherfucking feelings. And it was the feelings that always got me loaded. Right? I don't want to put in the work that takes me to jails and institutions any fucking more, man. I don't want to do that shit anymore. Look, man, I'll go back in time a little bit, man. I grew up. How much time I got?
6 minutes.
6 minutes? Holy shit. Okay, never mind. So look, man. I remember coming with that guy I told you about, man, my friend that's out, and I hope you'll say a prayer for my friend, man, right? Like the one I went and fed at Jack in the Box, right? And we came to a meeting called Life's Worth Saving. Remember Life's Worth Saving? We came to a meeting called Life's Worth Saving over here in Pedro, and And I met this guy, and he was sharing, and he had a different color skin as me, because like I told you, I was still tripping, right? And he started sharing about he'd talk about Popeye the Sailor Man. And he would talk about, he would say, Popeye was the most coolest, humble guy, and he was practicing self-acceptance, and Popeye would say, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. And then Popeye would get his ass beat by Bluto. Bluto, am I saying that right? Bruno. What? Bruno? Brutus. He would say, he would get his ass beat by Brutus. We're all saying it wrong. We're all fucked up. And then olive oil would be all into him, and Popeye would get in some feelings, and then he would knock down this green leafy substance, right? He would knock down this substance, and all of a sudden he'd get all this courage, and he'd say, he would whip Brutus's ass, and then he would tell olive oil, now blow me down, right? So he would relate the indoctrination that we got from cartoons as children, like we had cartoons telling us, he would, like Super Chicken's chicken sauce, right? He would talk about like these different cartoons, and then he went on to talk about being 7 or 8 years old and looking at his dog Blondie and going, huh, and thinking some crazy ass thoughts, right? And like I'm talking crazy. I ain't never thought of them thoughts. But I'm going to tell you, anybody that can come up here and talk about having them fucking thoughts, I want what they got. I want the type of self-acceptance that I could come up here in front of y'all and tell you about that shit. Look, I asked that dude to sponsor me. He still sponsors me today, man. I got into fucking 12 steps. I did some work. I got some self-acceptance, more than I've ever had in my life. I still got areas where sometimes I don't even like me, right? And I've done a lot of work, man, and like I remember being in the projects in 1989, and I remember raising someone else, my chick Michelle's fucking daughter in the projects, and we turned my grandma's into a den of criminality, and I remember the raids and the cops and the drugs and the guns and the gang activity and the whole thing, and I remember she was pregnant, I remember we had a baby, and I remember she was 5 months pregnant. We're like, hey, maybe we should go see a doctor, right? We should 5 months pregnant, and then we're signed, next thing I know, I'm sitting in a Winchell's, I'm pop locking, I'm directing fucking traffic, you know what I mean, right? And I'm signing my kid's fucking life over to some adoptive parents because I don't know how to live, and my kid's mom is telling me, I don't think we can fucking get clean. I'm like, you're probably right. And we're signing this fucking paperwork, right? And I remember watching her give birth. I remember holding her hand, and I remember handing this kid to fucking strangers the next day after feeling like the love that you get for a child, like where your whole heart swells and it feels like it's gonna fucking burst because it's so full of love. And then I remember giving her a name and handing her to strangers, and I remember like never fucking heard nothing, never seen nothing. And I remember getting clean, and I remember I had like 2 or 3 years, and this thing called Facebook came out after MySpace, and next thing I know, I see this girl, her name's fucking Caitlin, and she fights fires and runs up and down mountains, and she's in touch with the other little girl that I was raising. And it turns out, I'm like, oh my God, this is my fucking daughter. And so I call her, and I'm like, hey, that's my fucking daughter, huh? I'm gonna friend request her. And she's like, yeah, that's Caitlin. I've been in touch with her this whole time. I'm like, does she want to meet me? She's like, no, she thinks mom was a whore. So anyways, look, some years passed, right? And then I remember like 2 or 3 years passed, and one day she liked one of my posts, and I screenshotted it, and I went around, and I went to the meetings, and I said, look, like my fucking daughter that I gave away at birth, right? Because of active addiction, like my post, right? And look, like some years went by and some time went by, and all of a sudden I get this phone call about 6-7 years ago, man, and it's the non-biological daughter that I was raising. It's not my blood daughter, and she says, Caitlin wants to meet you. Caitlin wants to meet you, and we're at Airbnb. What is it called?
Airbnb.
Airbnb. We're at an Airbnb in fucking Venice and come out. And I remember going and I remember like, she's all, hey, this is Caitlin. And I remember seeing Caitlin. I'm like, hi, you know, and we like hug each other and we're like both super awkward. And she got these 2 little kids and I'm like, oh God, I'm not ready for all that. And right, and like I'm tripping. I'm tripping and Erin's seeing how uncomfortable we were and she handed us a fucking debit card. She's like, go to Tito's Tacos and get a, and next thing you know, we're in her Jeep and we're like, I'm like, yeah, hey, you know. Next thing you know, we're chatting it up and she's saying words like stoked and gnarly and talking about how she likes to fucking surf. And I'm like, dude, I like to bodyboard, man. I like to, right? And next thing you know, we're connected, right? And like, just the other day, it was my belly button birthday as well. And like my daughter called me fucking singing happy birthday with 2 grandkids, singing happy birthday on the phone. They live several 100 miles away, right? And like, I almost died to get here.
Yeah.
Like Narcotics Anonymous, look, man, what the fuck am I gonna do when I leave here? When I got a disease that's active. And that fucking woman whose ass I kicked in the kitchen, that little boy's 22 years old now. And he don't remember me loaded even though I was running with him for 2.5 years, taking him in the dope spots. I'd have missed it, man. We give up our kids. We smoke them. We tie ourselves off and we slam them. Just like we do our freedom. Sometimes it ain't just freedom from the outside world. It's this type of freedom. It's this type of freedom. Like, look, man, the gifts are fucking great. Look, and I'll close it with, it said in step 12, man, like y'all did it, man, and like I hope I did it. It said, and I just picked 2 things out of 2 books at random before I came up here, which I've never done in my life. I was like, open the page and point.